What's going on, guys? It's your boy Jermaine Houghton here. About to go over some trades that we took this week. I posted a couple of ideas this week. We want to go through and review and see how everything turned out. Now, if you took these trades, basically these were just ideas, not financial advice. Full disclosure, I do not provide financial advice. I'm not licensed to provide any financial advice. These are just ideas and also just a way of providing a learning tool to the trading community. Okay, with that said, the first trade we took up was the USD versus the Canadian dollar, and we entered that trade right around this level here. Our entry was at $1.3376. Pretty good entry. I think on this trade we set our stop loss. We were going to give ourselves around, let's see, we did 36 pips. So we risked 36 pips, and our target was 126 pips, right back into the 38.2 retracement level. Okay. Now, these I'm using, if you're not familiar, I'm using Fibonacci zones as my targets. Now, not saying that these targets have to go there, because the market can do anything at any time. Once you know that, when you set your target, once your position goes into profit, have to move your stop. The one thing about this market and the volatility that's been happening over the last few months or so, you have to put money in your pocket when you can, okay? So we set this trade up, and this was a fairly profitable trade very quickly, because we entered right here, and I think there was like maybe 2 or 3 hours after I posted this video, and the market shot down very quickly. Never took our stop loss out within the time period, our 36 pip stop, and the market shot down from our entry at 33.76, shot down to 32.80. Now, that represented almost a 100 pip profit almost instantaneously. Me, I went ahead and I booked some profits and I moved my stop loss to break even. The market did end up coming back and taking out my stop loss, but that basically ended that trade right there for me. It never achieved my first target, but I risked 36 pips and I made 100. So I did achieve a 3-to-1 risk to reward ratio on this profit. So that was our first profits for the week on the first trade. So that felt pretty good. The next trade idea that we had was the USD versus the Swiss franc. And for this one, we had set it up and we were trading this on a daily chart. I remember setting this up. So what we did was we said that we would begin a short at 99.29. Now on this trade, we were fairly conservative. We risked 50 pips, and our target was 172 pips. Now this trade, for some people, are still in it, depending on how you moved your stop loss. But for me, the market came up, and they did this candle right here. It happens. You know, you got to set your stop losses. Maybe I should have put my stop a little bit higher, but the market did come up and take my stop loss out. Now that trade has ran into profit. So if you took the trade idea with me, you can see that, you know, it wasn't wrong trade. It was just wrong stop loss placement. So for this one, we had a loser. We lost 50 pips. We're still at profit for the week. Okay. Next trade that we had was with the Aussie versus the Canadian dollar. And we set this one up also based on, we had a 2-hour chart. Now I trade different time frames, just depending on how I'm looking at for the setup. Now if you guys remember, I set this trade up for a conservative trader. This trade, we risked 30 pips, you would have gotten stopped out. If you remember my video, I stated that I would short at this level here at 101.94 was where I entered my first short trade. I'm a more aggressive trader, so I decided to take 2 entries on this. I shorted at this level first, did not place a stop loss. I shorted at 102.70 as per my plan for my second position, and then I placed my stop loss up in these areas here. Okay, now for me, I'm a fairly aggressive trader, so my stop loss are just there as a disaster prevention mode. A lot of the times I enter the market, I believe that it's a high probability chance that the market's going to move back in my direction before it stops me out. So I'm placing my stop as a disaster prevention. My stop losses are there to prevent my account from being wiped out. Okay, so I don't really place conservative stops. I place stops outside of the market where I don't believe the market maker, or there isn't many market makers in Forex, so don't listen to that when people say that. Where I feel like the banks or whoever's pushing the market at the time are not going to push it to that level before they pull it back into a value area, okay? Because I usually trade not price, I trade value. So the market moves from value high to value low and establishes a good point in between. But I'm not going to go into that today. That's something for another video for me to discuss, show you guys how the market moves. But I added my second short trade here. So I ended up with 2 positions. Basically, my risk to reward was basically 2 positions. So I entered another short at this point here, and I still had same targets down here. So basically for me, my second trade, my trade ended up looking like this. I had a position here and a position here, and my stop loss was above here. So I had 2 positions on. Now when the market hit my second position, you guys can see that how accurate my style of trading is at predicting these levels that the market will go to. So after the market came to my second level that I showed you it would enter at this on the video, it got exhausted, went oversold, and pulled all the way back down into these areas here. Now on my first trade, I ended up booking 63 pips. But look on my second trade, I ended up getting a 2-to-1, which was 93 pips. So total on that trade, I ended up with 150 pips total. So that ended up being a very profitable trade for me. That Aussie versus the Canadian dollar, this was a more aggressive trade, not like the Swiss franc trade where I was a little bit more passive, just because that trend had been really strong and the dollar has just been relentless. So I decided to make that a little more conservative. But with this one, being that the Aussie dollar was very overbought, it was really strong for no reason out of the blue. So I decided to fade it against this Canadian dollar at these highs. And if you guys look left in the chart, you have to probably go back a couple of weeks. You'll see that this was a very heavy resistance area also. So I didn't really just throw this trade on out of nowhere. You can see this is based on a weekly chart. We did push into a previous area of resistance in this area. So that's why I decided to add some more contracts in that area. So this may be the start of another trend down. We'll take off our profit targets. So far, this was a very profitable week. You don't have to win them all. You just have to make enough on the winners to outpace your losers, and you'll definitely be profitable in this Forex game. So that was my weekend wrap-up, guys. If you guys want to learn more, subscribe to the channel, like the video. If you guys have any trade ideas or anything you would like me to break down, any currency pairs, just add them in the comments. You guys can follow me on Twitter's at DREAD_Y. That's at Dreddy on Twitter, or on Instagram. The link will be down in the bio. You guys can check me out. I'm always posting new trade ideas throughout the week. I did 3 this week. This week coming up, I'll probably do 3 depending on what I see. I already see one that I'm going to be targeting this week. It's going to be the Great Britain pound versus the Japanese yen. I do see a very nice setup about to occur on this one. I'll break it down for you guys this week, probably Monday or Tuesday, and I'll send the video out. Just look for it. Like I said, hit the link down below, subscribe, and I'll be back with you guys next week.